here with us, because I know that you have launched recently, so you will have a lot of things to do, and you're prioritizing the next steps. But we really would like to, as we know, loans with Bitcoins is a really huge thing, as we know there are a lot of capital in Bitcoins. People want to leverage on that. So yeah, thank you very much. It will be a pleasure to hear more about your project.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for having us, Jesus. I'm Matt. I'm from I'm AtomicLoans, and we're essentially building a protocol for non-custodial Bitcoin-backed loans. I'm just going to share my screen actually, because I have a quick overview of us just before we get into a nice live demo that are always fun. Are you guys? Oh, oops. Let's get off of that. There we go. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah. So essentially, like with AtomicLoans, we're working on a protocol to bring DeFi to Bitcoin. So as you guys know, like Ethereum on Ethereum, DeFi has grown quite a bit. Over the last year and last 2 years, we've gone from a couple $100 locked all the way up to $1 billion, and then of course we had March 12th that happened, and that got cut in half. But the question is, what about Bitcoin? Where does Bitcoin play in this equation? And specifically, how do tools like Bitcoin-backed loans, what can we do about Bitcoin-backed loans today, and what are the ways that we can get access to them in the current market? So, of course, like first off, like what is a Bitcoin-backed loan? So of course the idea is that you're able to lock Bitcoin as collateral in the similar way that in MakerDAO you're able to lock Ether and get access to a cash or a stable coin. Then this is really useful for you to be able to get access to money, to be able to get access to liquidity without actually having to go and liquidate your Bitcoin. Just turn off this. So the other element as well is being able to go leveraged on your holdings. So with MakerDAO, for example, if you have Ether and you want to leverage up, go 1.5x, 3x leverage in a completely non-custodial and decentralized way, that's really easy to do. But with Bitcoin, the only options to do that are something with BitMEX, for example. And the last one is, what if you want to be able to pay bills while being exposed to the Bitcoin price going up, for example? Say you want to buy that new car, or you want to pay for rent. The only way to do that is, really to sell your Bitcoin or use a centralized service. And of course, the basic idea, you lock one Bitcoin as collateral. Say that's worth $10,000, and you'd get a loan for $5,000. Depending on where you are in the spectrum, you can borrow more or you can borrow less. And of course, at the end of it, you repay and you're able to unlock your Bitcoin. Or a liquidation occurs and the Bitcoin gets sold in order to repay your loan. So there's a couple of different options out there right now for Bitcoin-backed loans. Of course, you have they're all using centralized finance. So in essence, you need to trust a company and the humans behind it in order to use a tool like that. So you have BlockFi, Unchained Capital, Nexo. There's custody risk with that. So, you have to go and you have to give your Bitcoin to them. There's geographic barriers. It's only available in certain countries. I know some of these are only available in the United States, for example. And there's, of course, you have to give all your information away, to those companies. And lastly, oftentimes what they do with the Bitcoin is they take that Bitcoin and they actually go and they go and you lock that as collateral, and it doesn't just stay there in their vault. They go and lend that out to someone else. So, your Bitcoin isn't always there at all times. It's being mixed with other Bitcoins. So you don't necessarily know exactly what's going on. You're kind of trusting the risk management of the company behind it. So there's a couple other ways that you can do like DeFi and Bitcoin. One way is with WBTC. So it is essentially an ERC20. So the idea is you go and you lock your Bitcoin and convert it into WBTC. But of course, you have centralized custody risk, so you need to trust the company behind it. You need to go through KYC, so you need to go give your information away in order to mint it, and also to be able to go and redeem that WBTC back to BTC. So there's a couple of additional steps involved with that. If you want to go and say, use this with MakerDAO and get access to a DAI loan. The other one is TBDC, which was launching, but I think they've since shut down. So you can essentially convert your Bitcoin to an ERC20 TBDC. But the challenge with this is that it requires a lot of Ethereum capital on the other end in order to make it trustless. And there is, of course, additional surface areas for attacks. So there's, a surface areas of attack when you're actually, locking the Bitcoin in the first place. An ERC20 Bitcoin is not the same as a native Bitcoin. So essentially with AtomicLoans, what we're trying to build is a solution that allows for you to be able to lock native Bitcoin. So it essentially allows for you improved capital efficiency. So that means you don't need a bunch of capital behind it in order to make it trustless, and also improved security. If I'm a Bitcoiner, I'm able to go and see exactly where my Bitcoin is locked, and exactly how it's locked on the Bitcoin chain itself, and be able to go and get access to a loan that's that's backed by that. Now the downside is it can't be integrated with existing Ethereum DeFi. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a quick live demo of the product itself, going through the process of AtomicLoans. Is there any questions so far?
I have one question. First of all, you decide DAI, but as you can see, USDT is like, USDC also have a lot of, to 10 billion, no? It's, no, USDT, no? What are your main reasons to select in the stablecoins ecosystem?
Yeah, so we had a look at kind of what Compound integrated, and so one of the two that they integrated was USDC and DAI, and we felt that those two coins had a pretty good reputation in the ecosystem. We've also considered adding USDT, for example, as well, and I think that's actually been recently added to Compound. One of the considerations is that if you're a lender on AtomicLoans and you lend out your funds, those funds are immediately put onto Compound until they're matched with a borrower. And so we kind of waited and see whether Compound was going to add USDT before we added it to the system. And so far, I think the pool for that has been fairly small. So we decided not to integrate USDT just yet, but we're definitely considering it in the future.
And what would happen if, imagine, USDC collapse? You don't have to return anything?
Yeah, so I think that's definitely a major risk, and it's a risk for all of the DeFi ecosystem. If USDC, all of a sudden tomorrow, completely collapses or is worth $0, there's really no incentive to go and repay your loan. So I mean, the borrower, if they've gone and done something with that USDC already, or if they've gone and bought Bitcoin with it, I mean, they're laughing. They can go and buy USDC for a cent on the dollar, and then go and repay their loan and get their Bitcoin back. So I think with that, like as a lender, whenever you're lending out an asset, you're taking a lot of risk in terms of like what's happening with that asset. So in the case of like DAI, you're taking risk being involved with the MakerDAO system. So if March 12th happens, what happens to your DAI? And then USDC, the risk you're taking is the centralized risk of Compound and Circle managing the assets that back it. So that's kind of the consideration you need to make as a lender. I'd say as a borrower, you're less exposed to that for sure.
Okay, and about the interest rate, do you think it's competitive right now, 9% API with other platforms? Because right now it's like a competition, no? In terms of what are the more efficient way to leverage, even in derivatives, in futures. So there are like 7 different options like to get leverage, and they have different costs. So how do you see the competition right now in this, the cost of the leverage on Bitcoin?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think specifically with Bitcoin, like if we look at the centralized solutions, if you look at BlockFi and you look at Unchained Capital, their rates are actually in the range of 11.5% or 10.5% for a loan. And so we're actually slightly lower than that at 9.75, 10%. I'd say we're a little bit high for the DeFi ecosystem, where right now, like say on Compound, for example, you can get a loan for say from USDC, you can get it for like 3%, for example. So I mean, I expect that over time those rates will kind of adjust as the as we kind of see supply and demand in the ecosystem. So we might adjust those depending on what happens. But I'd say we're pretty competitive compared to the centralized solutions.
Yes, so but in terms of, I understand that there are different risk, different interest rate because there are different kind of risk. That's in that sense. You think your proposal in order to be more costly or more cheaper is that probably you have your Bitcoins, or I don't know. It's
Yeah, I think one of the big things is that you know, it's slightly the idea behind that is that like you have you're able to lock your Bitcoins on the Bitcoin chain. So like I mean, I just did a loan slightly earlier, and you know, right here I can see exactly at all times throughout my whole loan. So if I take out a loan for a year, if I take out a loan for 5 days, I can see exactly where that Bitcoin is locked for the entire duration of the loan, and I can see exactly how that Bitcoin can be unlocked. I think AtomicLoans is the only solution where that's actually the case, and it's not like an abstraction where you're either like going and giving it to a company to manage, or you're like abstracting it into like an ERC20 where you either need to give away custody risk or you have increased area of attack, and you don't necessarily know what Bitcoin you're getting back. So I think that's kind of like the main thing that you're paying for is like the security and the ability to be able to see at all times exactly where your Bitcoin is locked.
okay. And another question, the only it's, do you know that sometimes people are worried about if the Bitcoins it's white or it's just minted or not, because they can really have some transaction in illegal things. As I understand, that is a way like to have the same Bitcoin in some way, or you can like, so if you are a fan, imagine that I have only minted Bitcoins in order to have some legal, not to have illegal issues. So with your protocol, it's mostly, I understand, it's the same Bitcoin, no? So you can show that in some way you can trace the Bitcoin, only go to your protocol and to come back, no?
Yes, exactly. So actually what you can do is for every loan that's originated, you know, I can actually go and I can see like, you know, say if I've taken out a loan here, and we'll go through the process shortly of that. Oh, this one's actually for withdrawal, but essentially you can see here, I actually deposited this amount of Bitcoin earlier today, and I can go and see exactly, you know, where that Bitcoin is locked at all times throughout the entire loan. And so the idea there is that, you know, at all times throughout my loan, I can actually see exactly where that Bitcoin is locked. So this isn't like a minted Bitcoin. So it's not similar to, you know, RSK where you're locking your Bitcoin into like kind of a federation or like giving it to some custodian. You're not, you're actually locking it. We have a specific Bitcoin script that's used in order to lock this Bitcoin. And if you guys are curious, you can actually go to docs.atomic.loans and you can see actually our Bitcoin script. Every time that you lock your Bitcoin, it's actually locked into one of these scripts. So you can actually see the code that's used to lock your Bitcoin and the code that will be used to unlock your Bitcoin. So for example, you can see here that, you know, the borrower pub key, like I actually have, as a borrower, I have a key to be able to go and unlock my Bitcoin.
Okay. We have also miner people in our community. So we have a big community of miners in Spain. Okay, thank you. I know some others have any other question, or we can go to the demo. Okay.
Awesome. Oh, did we get one in the chat? All right, sounds good. All right, well, we'll go through a demo. Thanks so much for the questions, Jesus. So I'll do a loan really quick with USDC. So for example, say I want to take out a loan for maybe $50 of USDC, for example. I've got my ledger actually connected right here. So my Ledger Nano. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually connect it so you guys can see the balance that gets connected on the site. We're working on support so that you don't need a Ledger Nano. Actually, we've got a software wallet in the works, but for now it does require Ledger on the site.
And so I use, sorry for interrupting, but I use usually NanoX with MetaMask because the MetaMask integration it works, and right now with my NanoX I am working with MetaMask. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we'll double check that for sure. I think what we found is it might be that extensions like have different requirements for Web USB, but I'll have to double check. So we'll let you know about that, Jesus. I know for sure, like if you install that that driver, that it will work. But we'll take a another check. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and take out a loan for 50 USDC, and I'm going to be locking $100 worth of collateral. So of course a 200% collateralization ratio. So and then I have a liquidation price of $6,800. So essentially, if Bitcoin falls to that price, then I'm going to be liquidated, and my Bitcoin's going to be sold at a discount. And that discount in the case of our protocol is 7%. I know that MakerDAO has it at 13%, and Compound has it at 5%, for example.
And the Oracle? Well, what Oracle do you use to launch this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we use a combination of Chainlink and Provable. So we basically have 2 sets of oracles with each. So 5 price feeds from Oraclize, 5 price feeds from Chainlink. And so what we do is we take those 10 price feeds and we get the median of them in order to find out what the price is. So that's essentially how we find out the price. What's really cool about this actually is that anyone can actually go and update the prices. So I'll show you guys real quick. If I go to AtomicLoans.app/oracles, you can actually see all of our oracles that are running in the background, and anyone can go and actually update the oracles themselves if they want. So so I'll just load here. So you can see here, for example, so if the difference changes by like 1%, for example, it'll update the oracles. So you can see like all the different price feeds that we're getting and exactly what the price is. And I can actually go at any time and I can go and update the price in order to refresh what the price is. And so what this does is it makes sure that like no flash crash on one exchange is going to massively affect the price on the protocol. So it gets the median of all of them together. Cool.
Okay.
Awesome. So there we go. I put 50 USDC in, and then now I'm going to go ahead and select the length. So I can actually do all the way to 227 days. I'm just going to do a short loan for the demo today. I'm just going to do it for 4 days. And you can.
Do you have any different rates if you go for a week or for a month? What are the main reasons to select? I don't know, 1 week, one more, even if you are doing a long-term loan, because.
Yeah, absolutely. So the rates are actually the same no matter how long the loan is. So it doesn't matter if it's 227 days or simply 4 days. You're locked into that rate for the entirety of the loan. So I'm able to get a loan for 9.75% APR for the entire duration. So so that's one other thing as well, is kind of like you're able to kind of determine your cost basis beforehand. So one use case we've heard from people is that say, for example, you lock your Bitcoin as collateral and you get a loan in a stable coin, because you know what the stable rate is. If you know like something where you can be a liquidity provider and make a higher yield than that, then that's a really good opportunity, because it's actually fixed rate for the duration of the loan. So yeah, it is for the entire loan, Jesus.
Okay, and so that's promotes to do for people to do it like more. So the people who lend money. We will probably do a quicker one. No, the people who are going to borrow, they are like different incentives. No, for the long term, there is no incentive to be fixed or to be like because anyway you can put 6 months, you cannot withdraw. No, you are fixed period and you cannot withdraw the amount. As I understand.
Yeah, so you can repay early, but you need to repay the entire amount. So you can repay early in order to get your Bitcoin back. However, you do need to pay the entire amount back. In V2, we're working on a solution that will allow you to be able to repay early and not have a penalty. But that's what it looks like in the current version.
Okay.
Cool. Awesome. So we'll put 5 days for the number of days, and of course it updates the interest owed on the sideline here. So I'm going to have to repay a total of 50 USDC by May 23rd. Cool. So this is my entire loan. So I've got 50 USDC, $6 of interest. I'm going to be locking 0.01 Bitcoin and a collateralization ratio of 200%. So I'm just going to go ahead and confirm on my MetaMask. So what this is doing in essence is it's basically generating the secrets necessary for the loan. And that's what enables the cross-chain between Ethereum and Bitcoin. And I'm actually going to go ahead and begin verification now. So what this does is this is me actually signing a transaction to myself that proves to the lender that I have the Bitcoin necessary to do the loan. So I'm going to go ahead and review the outputs. So I'm just signing on my ledger right now, actually. All right. Perfect. There we go. So the request transaction just went through. All right. And this can take just a few minutes because it's just going to broadcast to the Ethereum chain. And essentially, what's happening on the other end is there we go. So the lender is actually creating a transaction here. All right. Perfect. So they've just created a transaction that essentially allows for me to basically request the loan. And so that's going to be put on chain. So that includes like all the secret hashes for the loan itself. You know, what is my public key on the Bitcoin chain? And so that's all broadcast to the chain for me to be able to go and verify at any time. And once that's requested, once the lender locks their funds, then I can go in and actually go in and borrow those funds. So we're just waiting for that transaction to go through. All right, so looks like it did, and this should update in a second. Awesome. Perfect. So now I can go and actually lock my Bitcoin collateral. So I'm going to go ahead and deposit it. So in this step, I'm actually locking it into two different places. So this is one script, and this is another script. And so I'm going to go ahead and lock again on my Ledger Nano. All right. There we go. So now you can see I've actually gone and deposited my Bitcoin. So at all times throughout the loan, my Bitcoin will be locked at these two addresses. So at any time I can go and verify that my Bitcoin is still there. We have a blog post if you're curious why we lock it into two different locations. We actually have a blog post explaining that. You can check out on AtomicLoans, atomic.loans/blog. But now essentially, as soon as that Bitcoin is locked, I will be able to go and I'll be able to withdraw my USDC. So of course, the challenge is that Bitcoin blocks, especially after the halving, take quite a bit of time. So I'm actually going to go ahead, and I've actually done a loan previously, and that's available to withdraw here. So I'm going to withdraw this one and show the process of actually going and unlocking the Bitcoin. So in this one, I'm going to go ahead and withdraw my USDC. And so we'll confirm that. And once I do so, then I'll be able to go and actually see like what my collateralization ratio is. I can repay part of the loan in order to get in order to increase my collateralization ratio, for example. So we'll just wait for this to go through. Any questions while we're waiting here? Awesome.
As I understand, what do you think that's I see it's like too technical, no? For what do you expect you are going to be your users mainly? Application on top of that, or people who right now have Bitcoins, and what are your expected users, and what are you expecting in terms of capital locked? I understand that miners could be one of the users, no, of this application.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we've definitely chatted with a lot of miners that have been interested in using something like AtomicLoans, and mostly what they're trying to do is they're trying to go go long on the price of Bitcoin while they're running their operation. So say if you're a miner and you need access to liquidity, and you want that without actually selling your Bitcoin, then this is a great opportunity to be able to get access to that. The challenge with miners right now is a lot of their profits. So of course we saw the halving occur, and a lot of their profits have decreased dramatically, throughout the, recently. Well, and so for them, like, it's a bit difficult right now because price fluctuations of Bitcoin will mean that they're no longer, no longer in business. And so that's been a little bit more difficult lately. Once we see miners making a little bit more profits, I expect that we'll have more interest from them in actually going and taking out loans. The other use cases we've seen as well is people going and actually, borrowing from AtomicLoans to go and provide liquidity to another source as well. So for example, like say synthetics, for example, they had rates that were in 20% to 30% on being a liquidity provider. And so we had people going and taking out loans and then going and like deploying that as capital on there. So that's another one that we've seen as well. And the last one is, of course, being able to go on the leveraged long on Bitcoin. So say I want to go 1.5x or 2x on my Bitcoin. I can go and I can take this 25 USDC that I just got. I can go to something like liquidity.io/swap. And I can go and I can swap my my USDC and I can swap that for Bitcoin, and that'll allow me to get access to Bitcoin for a leveraged long position. Cool. And then I'm just going to go ahead and actually repay the loan. So so I have 25 USDC. So you can see here, of course, the collateralization ratio is 200%. I can repay some of the loan in order to increase that in the case that the value of my Bitcoin is dropping dramatically. Awesome. So I'm going to go and repay the USDC. Yeah, I'm curious to hear from the community. Do you guys have any like unique kind of use cases for Bitcoin-backed loans, or for something like you've used with MakerDAO? I know people have gone and they've say taken out a loan, and they've gotten bought a car, for example.
No, you want to ask?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was just curious if anyone's like used like a MakerDAO loan or used like a crypto-backed loan for any like specific use case that was interesting.
Well, right now I am using MakerDAO in order to invest in other companies, because we people who right now believe in the crypto from the long term, we are like with crypto asset without doing anything. So I think for me it's really a way to sometimes to invest in other companies or to diversify. Yeah, I think people the thing is right now it's very cheap in Maker. No, right now it's really cheap to leverage on MakerDAO. Probably not in the Bitcoin itself, in some derivatives, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Well, they're trying to make sure that the DAI stays as close to $1 as possible. So I guess, and they've also, it's been a bit shaky in terms of March 12th. So I think they've been really trying to reduce the rates in order to get more DAI printed in essence. So, so yeah, awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and Maker Solutions. Yeah, so it's essentially I'm going to go ahead and yeah, absolutely, Alex. This is basically a Maker solution for Bitcoin. So I'm going to go ahead and actually unlock the Bitcoin collateral. So this is so I'll actually go ahead and sign on my ledger again, as you can see, and now I've actually gone and withdrawn the Bitcoin. So as you can see, what happened here, I'm just going to refresh because sometimes it takes a second. Is basically what I did here is I actually, so first I went and I locked my Bitcoin into these two addresses, and now essentially what occurred was I locked it at these two addresses, and now I redeemed to my Bitcoin address, and so now I get that Bitcoin back. And so now that transaction is just going through, and I finished the loan. I've received my Bitcoin at the end, and the loan is finished. So yeah, that's the entire process of an atomic loan. It is essentially a kind of a maker loan for Bitcoin. We are working on a solution. Here's actually a sneak peek for you guys. There's actually a solution that we're working on that will allow for this to be used, without Ledger, for example. So we've got this cool wallet, and this is a sneak peek for you guys. This isn't actually out yet. But if I go to app-kiba. There's this new extension that's being worked on that is basically like a MetaMask for Bitcoin.
Ah, okay, great.
So essentially, if I refresh there, I can go and I can see my balance, and it has both Bitcoin and Ethereum. So eventually, you'll be able to go through the entire process without using your ledger, and you can use MetaMask optionally if you want, but you can do the entire process with one wallet.
That's great. Yes.
Yeah, so that's coming very soon.
And right now, would you have more? Do you have more Bitcoins loans, or you have more liquidity? As I understand, you have more liquidity right now. No, there are people willing to put right now stable coins and to get APR. No, what other way are you in terms of growing? What do you need? What do you need more for the growth?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're actually, so just recently, just yesterday, the majority, so we actually had a lot of loans recently that were repaid yesterday. So this number borrowed was actually at 110,000 yesterday. And so we had a few large loans that were repaid. So I expect that number will go up again. At the time, we were actually, we're essentially looking for really either really large lenders, because it is a P2P model. It's a lot easier if you're a large lender to go and get access to liquidity. So we're either looking for large lenders or if you're looking to borrow, we'd love for you to come and test out AtomicLoans and try out taking out a loan. If you don't have a ledger right now, then you can, of course, we'll let you know when Kiva is available. And we actually have a quick promotion for the community here. So if you're if you're actually from the Crypto Plaza community, you can sign up at atomic.loan/cryptoplaza, and you can get 50% off the interest on, sorry, this is interest, on your first loan. So we'll cover that for you if you're interested.
Thank you very much. We will test with our community.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Miguel as well for this week. He's actually doing he tweeted, thanks Miguel. He's doing an overview of AtomicLoans and Makers. So we're really looking forward to that as well.
Miguel, do you want to comment something about that?
No, I'm excited for the Thursday to speak about Atomic and Maker. I like the product a lot. Matt knows, and yeah, I will be pleased to speak about the fight between AtomicLoans or Bitcoin versus Ethereum. Yeah.
Love it. We really appreciate that, Miguel.
So I don't know, Miguel Tutelus has like 2 million people in the community, in the education community. So it's really a huge community. So that will, for sure, will help to express the. So what are the next things? What are you working right now in AtomicLoans in order to understand what are your next steps, or what are the things that we are going to see in the AtomicLoans project? Yeah,
absolutely. So I think like a few things that we're working on. So we've number one is, of course, like, this new wallet integration, so you don't have to have a ledger to to go through the process. But one of the other things that we're working on as well is improving the process for lending. So right now, you need to go and you need to set up a bot to be able to go and lend. So if I go to the lending side, right now it's I need a bot to be able to go and lend on the protocol itself. So we're improving that process. But actually, some other things that we're working on is to be able to add more collateral, for example. So right now, in the protocol, if I want to add more collateral to the loan, I can't do so just because of the kind of difficulties with the Bitcoin and Ethereum chain. So we're working on something called SPV proofs that basically will allow for us to prove that a Bitcoin transaction happened on Ethereum, which will allow you to go and add more collateral. So that's one thing we're definitely working on. And for V2, we're actually working on a solution. So right now, everything is peer-to-peer, but we're working on a solution that will allow for like semi-pooling, so pooling of the assets between lenders and borrowers in V2. So we're really excited for that as well.
Good news. I don't know if other people have some question about that. People usually in English, you understand Spanish people speak we speak very bad, and usually when we have some presentation in English, we have some difficulties to talk.
Well, feel free to ask in the chat in Spanish as well, and then I'm sure Jesus will translate. my Espanol is very bad.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. Enough people. Let me. I have a chat. I found interesting and make a solution for BTC, so leverage. Okay, about leverage, as I understand, have you planned something to leverage more than, or because you have to as I understand, to get USDC, to buy Bitcoin, to do this kind of trying to leverage. Are you planning to do like some small steps in order to get leverage more easily?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're actually working on one of the teams. So like specifically like Liquality is actually a team that we're working very closely with to be able to go, right here I've gotten a USDC loan, and then if I'm able to go and swap that seamlessly on the site. So for example, say you didn't need to leave the Atomic Loan site and you're able to convert it right here. Or say I want to enter into an Atomic Loan and maybe I have an extension, and basically what that does is I just click one button. I say, hey, I want to go 1.5x or I want to go 2x, and I can just click that one button, and it will go through the entire process of like creating a leveraged long, and it will automatically go and trade my assets with Liquality in order to end up with a leveraged position. So that's one thing that we're looking at in order to enable that.
And another one, Alex is asking, when are you paying your loans? When taking the loan?
Yeah, so you do need to repay your loan before the due date. So for example, this loan I think is due on May 23rd. So I do need to repay the loan before that date, or I will be liquidated. So and then of course, in order to repay your loan, as long as you're connected with MetaMask, you can just go to the Borrow tab. So it's atomic.loans/borrow/app/borrow. And then I can go in and I can go and repay on the screen, and it will show up on your interface. So those are the places where you can repay the loan.
Okay, perfect. And about the the spikes in price, what do you think about that? Because as we understand, do you see in BitMEX like a huge drop? There are some spike movements. Do you think that will be more in the future? Well, what kind? Because that's, I think the miners have like be afraid of that kind of things in order to avoid these liquidations. But what do you think about that? Because there were like some issues with miners, and I think that could stop people from doing that, no? Or what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think to be honest, like a lot of miners have been scared off by Bitcoin-backed loans recently, just due to like March 12th and kind of what happened with BitMEX. Hey, I have a loan out with BitMEX, and all of a sudden the price crashed, by half, and it was just kind of a death spiral where the price just kept falling because people kept getting liquidated. And so, I mean, I think with something like BitMEX, you also have a situation where you have a lot more leverage, in a system like that. So if you're for example, if you're 2x, 2x leverage, being able to add more collateral in a reasonable amount of time, even on a March 12th, or being able to partially repay the loan, you're going to be able to do that a lot easier than if you're 5x on BitMEX. And so I think it really depends kind of what your situation is and how much leverage you're taking out. In general, like if you're taking a lot of leverage, that's generally like a pretty risky thing to do. And so I think that definitely affected a lot of people on BitMEX. But in terms of miners, we've had some interest coming back into it. I think it will take some time before the profit margins, or we have like some type of bull market where a lot of miners come back and they say, hey, you know what, I think like the market looks okay. I want to try this again, and my profits look good. But I think it will take some time to kind of regain that trust in the kind of the price volatility of Bitcoin.
Yes, and about that, sometimes the difficulty is that the network is congested and you cannot really withdraw. You have to pay a lot in order to pay your loan. No? That's the other thing that probably it's one of the issues when these kind of movements arise. No? Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that was a major concern for like MakerDAO actually on Black Thursday, was that people like there was an issue in their system where like people were trying to go, like they were trying to buy DAI in order to repay their loans, and DAI was selling at a premium, and so instead of DAI being $1, it was $1.12. But they were willing to pay that because they were being liquidated for $0 on the MakerDAO platform because of an issue in their auction. And so generally, yeah, and even in a system like this, like you need to be prepared to pay really high gas fees in order to go and partially repay your loan in order to make sure you don't get liquidated. Because like at the end of the day, the Ethereum blockchain in times of high congestion, you're going to have very high fees. We saw like 150 Gwei, 200 Gwei on March 12th. And so like you need to be prepared for that if you're taking out even a Bitcoin-backed loan like this, be able to pay that, to be able to repay your loan in the case that, you know, that happens. So I would say, like, you know, for people, just make sure you're prepared.
Okay, and what do you think about the options? Because options can be like some solution to this kind of things, no? If you have probably an option, it can be like exercise in a moment of, because sometimes we see spike trading very, very fast, but I don't know, do you think that option or something, some elements of that, of risk insurance, I don't know, do you think that could really be a solution or not?
Yeah, so I think with options specifically, so if you look at a typical options trade for gold, the premiums are pretty low because the fluctuations in the price of gold are like pretty minimal. Whereas if you look at something like Bitcoin, the price fluctuations are absolutely insane. And so if you look at the actual premiums, so on AtomicLoans, for example, if you take Deribit, AtomicLoans has it's about, the APY is about 10%. So you're paying 9.75% here. On something like Deribit, in order to get an options contract, you're actually paying 4 times the interest in order to enter into that type of options contract. So certainly you could do that. So you could set up a situation where you have an atomic loan and you also have an options contract that protects you against that downside, but then you're paying 50% interest. And so what we've seen is that the majority of options contracts are just extremely expensive for what they're worth, and generally like are very illiquid, and are only for a short amount of time. So options, I think, are really difficult, especially with Bitcoin. One thing that's more useful and that we've been working on is something that MakerDAO has, with like the safe CDP system. So what it does is essentially when you're, say for instance, I have this loan and I'm at, you know, I'm getting close to, maybe I'm at 160% collateralization ratio. What it will do is it will start selling my Ethereum,
Yes.
in order to deleverage me as the price starts going down. So that's something that we're working on for V2 as well, to allow in AtomicLoans.
That sounds great. Okay, really, really interesting. We will test AtomicLoans with a discount. I think that a lot of people right now, it's like saving in Bitcoins. Probably we will have some liquidity. So I think that's for sure is probably one of the best solutions to do that. So we have to, I think it's not so easy for people, but I think we have to translate it in Spanish, and probably in the future, if you have a wallet, probably we have like a button, no, to do this kind of loan automatically, or I imagine the future like that, no?
Absolutely, and if any of you don't have ledgers and you're interested in testing out AtomicLoans, like do sign up. We'll let you know when this wallet, this Kibo wallet is available, because it's almost ready. We're just actually working on pushing it to the Chrome store, so we'll let you know when that is ready, so you can go and test it out.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know. Open the question. I know that before we finish the meeting. I don't know if other ones have another questions.
Yes, I have a question, Jesus.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Matt, for the talk. And I would like to know, because I'm a developer, I would like to know some things about the solution from the technical point of view.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know the project before, so sorry about that. But I would like to know how it was built, because I guess that AtomicLoans is in the middle of 2 worlds, Bitcoin and Ethereum, and you mainly connect to the Ethereum world and also to Bitcoin, to the Bitcoin side. The connection to the Ethereum side is in the way that we are used to, I guess. But for sure, the Bitcoin side could be more problematic. I would like to know how did you build that side? How are you working with the funds and the Bitcoin moves and these kind of things?
Yeah, excellent question, Miguel, and I'm very happy you asked, because now I get to show this slide. Yeah, that's awesome. So essentially, the way that we got around the Bitcoin side, so Bitcoin doesn't have smart contracts. And so the Bitcoin chain itself is very primitive, and the actions that you can do with it are very, very simple. Basically, what I can do with Bitcoin is I can send my Bitcoin to a contract, and I can redeem from that contract. That's all I can do. I don't have any functions. I don't have any fancy like parameters that I can put in. That's basically all there is to it. And so what we saw was that, like, hey, what if you could use that functionality to allow for you to lock your Bitcoin as collateral, take out a loan, and then when you're done with the loan, go and unlock that collateral. So that's this contract is essentially what's actually used for like a multi-sig. If this contract is used for an atomic swap, for example, and in the case of us, this is what's used to be able to lock the collateral and then unlock the collateral at the end of it. So the basic idea is that essentially what you do is you go and you lock your Bitcoin, first of all, on the chain, and then essentially what happens is a lender on the other side, they go and they go and lock their stablecoin, and once they've approved the locking of your Bitcoin, you can go and withdraw, DAI or USDC, for example. Now, so this requires basically the lenders to run a bot in the background, so they run like an agent that basically scans the chain and checks what's going on. And then essentially, once you've actually got that, there's two things that can happen. You either repay.
Sorry for the interruption, but
yeah, go for it.
How that locking works? It's a movement of bitcoins in behalf of your account or your multi-sig wallet, or
yeah. So it's so I can actually show you. So this is the script that we use for essentially locking it. So there's a few parts of the script. So for example, like this part of the script is using for reclaiming your Bitcoin after you've repaid. This part of the script is used for liquidation. So essentially what this script says, so basically when you go and you lock your Bitcoin, it's locked into this long script, and there's basically four parts of that script. So when you actually go and lock your Bitcoin, this is one part of it, and basically the first if statement. And so basically what happens is we take basically all this code. So we take all of this, we take this, we take this, we take this. All of that code is basically the smart contract, or the contract that's used for the Bitcoin code. So when I went and I actually locked my Bitcoin right here, this script actually represents all of that code for the Bitcoin side. And so there's a few parts of the script actually. So this part for reclaiming, essentially the idea here is that I need a secret from either an arbiter or the lender. So for example, like I go and I lock my Bitcoin under the Bitcoin chain. So the idea is basically first the lender takes their DAI or USDC and they lock that onto the Ethereum chain. And so as a borrower, I know, hey, the lender's funds are locked for a period of 4 hours before I go and lock my Bitcoin. So that makes sure that when I lock my Bitcoin, the lender doesn't just disappear. So the lender actually locks these funds first, and then I go and I lock my actual Bitcoin. So and I'm going to lock it into this long script that exists here. Now, after I've locked my Bitcoin, then the lender, they do one of two things. They either accept or they approve the locking of the collateral, or they cancel it and they reveal a secret. And if they reveal that secret, that allows for me to reclaim my Bitcoin, and I can use that secret that was revealed right here, along with my signature from the Bitcoin side, to be able to go and unlock my Bitcoin. If they do approve it, once they approve the locking of the Bitcoin, then I'm able to unlock my DAI or USDC. Does the locking part make sense so far, Miguel?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, perfect.
You get it, but I got the main idea. Thank you so much.
Okay, yeah. No.
Another thing, our question, it's you are going to develop your business B2C, or you are going to let other developers to build on top of AtomicLoans?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in general, so for example, I think in the Ethereum space, something like Compound allows for people to build on top of them very easily. One of the challenges with something like Bitcoin is that, like, okay, I've locked my Bitcoin at the script. It's really, really safe, but like no one can interact with this. The only thing you can do is you can unlock that. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to be able to say build like maybe centralized solutions. So if you're like if you're BlockFi or your Unchained Capital or your Nexo, maybe you could build on top of AtomicLoans to allow for like things to happen within the ecosystem. However, like, you know, with solutions like Ethereum DeFi, so, you know, like Compound isn't going to be able to build on top of us, or MakerDAO is not going to be able to build on top of us. And that's because the Bitcoin is locked on the Bitcoin chain itself. So I think in some aspects you can build on top, and in some aspects it's more difficult.
Okay.
So it's mostly going to be probably B2C initially. So we're just in the process of improving the user experience and improving that for everyone. So yeah, to continue on that thread, Miguel, essentially, like once you've actually locked your Bitcoin and you've got your DAI or USDC, there's two actions that can happen. So one is repay, and essentially what happens is when I go and repay my loan, in order for the lender to actually get my principal plus interest, they need to reveal a secret in the process. So that's actually the secret that we saw over here. So they reveal this secret essentially, and that secret plus this plus my signature allows for me to go and get my Bitcoin back. And that's what will basically unlock the Bitcoin in that case. In the case that a liquidation needs to occur, so the Bitcoin is sold to repay the loan, essentially what happens actually is that it goes to the liquidate function, and so the lender and an arbiter, they go and they basically sign in a multisig to be able to move that Bitcoin to another contract, which then a liquidator can come in and they can go and buy that Bitcoin at a discount to be able to claim the Bitcoin. And in return, I get a certain amount of stable coin. So of course that stable coin is used to repay the lender, and then the remaining goes to the borrower.
Those secrets are for security measures, right?
Those secrets are for what, sorry?
For security reasons.
Exactly. So the idea basically is that, like, if I have a secret, I can hash it and I can put it on chain and I can do certain things with it. And this allows for me to do things cross chain between Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so when I reveal my secret on one chain, I can also use that secret to unlock something on the other chain. So that's how we allow for communication to happen between the Bitcoin and Ethereum chain.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for the question. Cool. So yeah, and once again, if you guys are interested to check out more, you can definitely check out the docs. It goes over every single step that's involved in the loan process. We have been audited by QuantStamp so far. So yeah, you can feel free to read more on that on the docs.
Yes, I will do it for sure.
Awesome.
Okay, well, I don't know if other people have other questions. Okay.
What about the roadmap, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. So for roadmap, as I was mentioning to Jesus, you know, number one thing is this new wallet here, so that you don't have to use Ledger. For the long term, I think what we're looking to do is right now the model is very peer to peer. So, you know, you have one lender, you have one borrower, and they're matched together to do something. We want to enable for, like, you know, say one lender and one borrower and many lenders to be able to be inside of a loan, so that you can have, you know, better pooling of assets within that. So that's kind of like the short to medium term in terms of like what we're thinking of for AtomicLoans. One thing that we've actually talked a lot about, and this, of course, we don't have any plans for immediately, but is the idea of, like, say, a stable coin that's backed by Bitcoin. So, I mean, I think we're a long ways away from that, but that's definitely something that we're thinking about. So kind of over the long term, like V2 will be kind of pooling for AtomicLoans, and then maybe thinking of, you know, some type of stable coin down the line.
Okay. And I think that you can think about is probably to have loans in euros, because sometimes we are, as European, we are exposed to Bitcoin, to dollar. So that's another thing that I think we have to cover in order to can really for I don't know, right now it's not too much fluctuation, but if we have like a lot of movements in euro, that will for sure will be also something that we have to address.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm in Canada, so, you know, we experience the same thing. You know, the Canadian and U.S. dollar are like going like crazy, especially during COVID. So I mean, yeah, we experience the same thing. So we're definitely looking to add kind of more assets, and you know, the euro as an asset to be able to be used. I know that what is it? There's T euro. So I know there's different projects being worked on. So that'll definitely on the roadmap in the future.
Okay, so we have 1 hour. Really interesting protocol. We will follow very near from your project. We will also thank you very much for the offer for the Crypto Plaza. We will publish it. Yes, probably the other part of the community we will see the presentation. We will send you if any question arise.
Sounds great.
So thank you very much, Matthew. I don't know if other people wants to say something before we.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Miguel. Looking once again, everyone. Go and follow Miguel on Twitter. He's doing an awesome overview this week. So really appreciate that. Thanks, Miguel.
Thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much all, and okay, we stay in touch. Matthew, you are very welcome in Madrid. In case you can visit us after the COVID, so let us know. Okay.
Awesome. Looking forward to traveling. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Matthew.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Antes de que entre nuestra casa,